Hi everyone, female Frodo Baggins is here with another video. Apparently, that's one of the names that my haters have given me online. Oh, another take from the female Frodo Baggins. I will wear that title with pride. In fact, I intend to show up on Elijah Wood's doorstep and claim to be his long-lost daughter and then ask for money. But in the meantime, I'm trying out my headphones today as well. We'll see if this works out. But, I don't know how many people will be interested in this little follow-up. It's just gonna be me talking and rambling a little bit about this, but, did a couple videos about the Lilo and Stitch movie and why I just think that ending where Nani leaves Lilo for college was just so bad. The more I would think about it, why Disney has really changed its messaging in its movies and how messed up that is. And, I always like to give the benefit of a doubt to people, really behind the scenes, because there's always a little doubt in me that, am I going too far? Am I just thinking the worst of people? And it's really just not that way behind the scenes, because I'm not there behind the scenes at Disney. I don't know everything that went down. But anyway, the director of the Lilo and Stitch live-action movie came out and he defended the ending. And first of all, he used a fallacy argument. He said that he thinks most people criticizing did not watch the film. I 100% watched the film and so did many people. Do not do that. Do not create a fallacy of, oh, you only think this because of this. When you don't know that, unless somebody is getting facts completely wrong about something and saying that, oh, there's a scene in the new Lilo and Stitch live action remake where they blow up a building or something, that would maybe mean that they didn't watch the movie. But I mean, unless you can be sure, just these people having their opinions about the ending, maybe some people chimed in who hadn't seen the film, but you can't just say that anybody who didn't like this just didn't see the film. That's just not true. It's not a good argument to come from. But anyway, he was talking about how he thinks people who have criticized it didn't see the film. He was patting himself on the back for how much money it's made, but it won't make the $1 billion hit. How do you feel about that? And using that as a defense. And he said in his defense of the ending that he wanted to do a realistic story of people who have lost everything, and people do get left behind. And that's what he said. People do get left behind. And that just gobsmacked me and took me aback, because yes, it's like when you're watching the film, you don't think that that's really what's going on behind the scenes. Like there's a scene in Lilo and Stitch where Nani loses her temper at Lilo and says that, well, Lilo's starting to talk about Ohana and family, as I remember it, and Nani gets mad at her and saying, well, our parents left us. They died in a car accident, and sometimes people do get left behind. And when I watched that, I thought that was just the low point in the movie where the characters' emotions are getting the better of them. But apparently that is what the director actually thinks. And it's just so backwards to me. And I know that I'm repeating myself for videos I've done recently, but why is Disney run by such backwards people? It's like this guy was watching the original Lilo and Stitch and seeing them stay together and going, that's unrealistic. That would never happen in real life. He cuts out the scene that's very touching in the original, Nani and Lilo and the flowers and Aloha Oi. That's not in the new remake. I bet he was coping and seething watching that. But literally, somebody watched that original movie about family and no one gets left behind and took issue with that and said that it was unrealistic and wanted to create the realistic version. There is so much wrong with that. First of all, to this guy, to respond to this guy, no, that's not always the case. And I was even getting somebody on my other video about this saying, Nani is 17 or 18 years old. She can't take care of Lilo. That is unrealistic. You are the unrealistic people. Do you know how much some people in real life have sacrificed to make things work? How many single parents have sacrificed for their kids and made things work? How many people who became parents as teenagers? How I've seen people in real life, they pull together and they make it work, even under very unideal circumstances. Saying that, 17 and 18 is just too young, back when the word teenager was only invented in the 20th century, it used to be that when you were what we would consider a teenager now, you were expected to pull your weight as an adult and all of those adult responsibilities back in the day, because it used to be harder to live. People had more hardship. I think it was considered that people would mature faster. Guess we're living in a different time now. But my point is that people do sacrifice a lot, and they do pull through even under extreme circumstances. So I take big issue with that cynicism of people getting left behind and no way she could do this, when it's just not true. You're not the person living in reality. You sound like a person with a chip on your shoulder and with an axe to grind. But you have to consider that this is the guy that they hired to do the Lilo and Stitch remake, a guy who fundamentally disagrees with the point of the original. And he probably did a pitch for the movie. They knew what he was going to do with it, but he fundamentally disagrees with the original point of Lilo and Stitch. And by the way, you talk about reality, well, getting an alien gun so you can visit your sister so the ending doesn't seem so bad is also unrealistic. Anyway, it just makes me think about Disney and how much they've fallen. Because, listen up, there's also always been a lot of bad people in Hollywood. We have all those scandals where people who maybe made stuff we enjoyed turn out not to be such great people behind the scenes. But it's just really surprising to me how backwards Disney in particular has become in their messaging, because they used to at least have some straightforward stuff in their movies. But now it is so confusing. It's like this is another pattern. Lilo and Stitch does not have the original theme of the original. It's now about following your own self, and people do get left behind. One of the movies that I haven't brought up in my videos yet was Toy Story 4. Now, that was another movie I hated, and one of those reasons was it completely abandoned the entire point of the Toy Story franchise, which was, a toy's purpose is to keep a kid happy, and that can come in different forms. Toy Story 3, maybe some people didn't like that ending, but it was about toys moving on and being able to make new kids happy. And it was all about, that sort of self-sacrificing thing of a toy being there to give a child joy. And that was very, very clear in all of the films, no matter how they felt themselves. But now, this is back to what I was talking about selfishness versus self-sacrifice. It's like Toy Story 4 abandons it, and it says you should follow your own pathway, even though, toys aren't animals or people, they're toys. They're created for a purpose. I don't understand. Are we going to have a species of toys running around now? But that's what they wanted to do in Toy Story 4. The new people were like, we should abandon that concept. You should follow yourself. And that's what happened with Toy Story 4. And that's what's happening with Lilo and Stitch. And it's like, these people are so backwards. They don't believe in any of the basic morality or themes of these original films. They look at it and they say that it's wrong and that it all needs to be changed in terms of going your own way. On that note, we can see a thing with The Acolyte, and one of my criticisms with that show was that with Star Wars, no matter what happened, they always had the theme. It was good versus evil. Dark side versus light side represents good versus evil. And then The Acolyte tried to muddy that. It was making it out like the dark side is good. And Leslie Headland said that in interviews, that she's always been drawn to the dark side, aka evil, and that was what inspired her to do that show. And she based the lead and the father off of her own relationship with her dying father. Messed up when you consider that this is her self-insert character and she's literally murdering her father. But you got some messed up people behind the scenes, or at the very least backwards, people who are cynical, who don't have any sort of optimism or light within them. I'm talking broadly here, but you kind of need that, not just to run Disney, but in general with films. But Disney in particular, it used to be that for all of Disney's faults, they had optimism behind them and they had hope behind them. Yeah, bad things happen in real life, but what we want to see is when people pull through in the end, despite all the strenuous circumstances, because that is aspirational and that gives us hope for what we do in our own lives and how we're struggling. That's why these movies are important and can really give us stuff. If you're a struggling person and maybe you feel like there isn't a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of taking care of your family, maybe you can be inspired by Lilo and Stitch and how they pull through at the end of the film and how reinforcing how important family is. But now it's just abandon whatever cause you're trying to fight for and just live for yourself. Okay, then. But in the midst of all of this, it's so weird the things that Disney and the people behind the scenes deprioritize. They take the basic, very simple concepts of these original films, that were very simple moral messages and positive messages and tarnish them, but at the same time, there's so many other things that they feel the need to correct that didn't need to be corrected. Like in Snow White, they all of a sudden, I guess, thought it was wrong for Snow White to impose upon the dwarves, and that's why they're desperately trying to make her leave. True love was wrong, so they tried to take it out and then shoehorn it back in after Backlash. Johnny Storm cannot have the immaturity and the womanizing and the kind of bad attitude that he used to before, even though that's a clear message in the comics. That is some flaws that he has that he gets over gradually over time as he matures. Clear, straightforward stuff, but that has to be taken out because people might take that the wrong way. They might think that you're saying that misogyny is good or something. They might be saying that you think that a woman should be dependent on a man or something if you think that she should follow true love or anything like that. The prince in the original movie was a stalker. Hey guys, I have a great idea. Let's remove Johnny Storm's womanizing. Can't have that. We can't portray women in any negative light, but here's a great idea. When we do X-Men 97, we're gonna retcon it into a time when Rogue was meant to be 13 years old so that she had an implied sexual relationship with her 80-year-old mentor that we're also going to retcon in. Yeah, you can guess I'm still not over that. What I'm getting at here is it's just so backwards. They don't believe in the basic moral messaging of these fairy tale movies and these superhero stuff. Like, guys, when was the time a superhero movie was about self-sacrifice? Thunderbolts is not about that. Thunderbolts is about becoming a hero because it'll make yourself feel better. That's what they did in the movie. But on the other hand, there's these other areas where they're getting rid of things that had basic understanding. Like, no one is saying it's right to be a womanizer or to be rude to other people's feelings when it comes to Johnny Storm. No one is saying you should literally marry a man you just met or that stalking is good. The prince was not a stalker. So they're getting rid of those things, messing up the basic moral message, getting rid of things that never needed to be gotten rid of, and then inserting stuff that no one ever asked for and that in 20 years of history no one would ever think to insert in. I mean, we got like 30 years and decades of them never inserting this thing into the X-Men characters and never thinking to adapt anything remotely like that after the comics because everyone hated it, but it happens now. And of course it would in the current era of Disney when they're so backwards in their thinking and they don't know what to put in and they don't know what their overall messaging is. Like they're very sensitive in some areas, but they're completely insensitive and warped in other areas. I guess that's why I just can't trust anything. Like, I know I brought up X-Men 97 again. I can't trust what they are going to do in a season 2 because of the mentality of the people behind the scenes. I can't trust them anymore until they go through an overhaul in this culture that's producing this kind of stuff and greenlighting it and hiring these kinds of people has ended. Or otherwise, I'm going to get surprised by more sick stuff that just tarnishes the original material that made us love Disney in the first place. But that's all I got for you guys today. What did you think about this video, and what do you think, how do you think about how Disney is run these days? Let me know in the comments below. Let me also know in the comments below if you think I look like Frodo Baggins. Thank you, channel patrons and memberships, as always, for supporting me, and I will see you guys next time.